Hey guys, tonight we are stepping back into a world of silver mist and ancient mountains, where the only clock is the rising sun and the only deadline is the slow change of the seasons. We are exploring the patient and rhythmic art of weaving a Maori cloak, a process so detailed and meaningful that it makes our modern world feel very fast and noisy. You probably believe this was just a simple way to stay warm in the damp forests of the South Pacific. But these cloaks were actually living pieces of history, carrying the stories, power, and breath of the people who made them. Before you get too comfortable and possibly fall asleep halfway through, tap like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this odd mix of boredom and history. It keeps the channel alive and the stories just sleepy enough to help you drift off again next time. If you are listening, please do share where you are in the world and what time it is for you in the comments. It is always lovely to see how far these sleepy stories travel while we all rest. Now, dim the lights, let the world outside grow quiet, and turn on a fan if you like that soft, steady hum in the background. Let your shoulders loosen and your breathing slow. This is your time to drift. No rush, no deadlines, no noise. Just you, a little warmth in the air, and the faint whisper of history waiting to unfold. So, settle in, and let's ease gently into tonight's journey together. The morning air is cool and tastes of salt and wet earth. You are standing at the edge of a vast wetland, a place where the ground feels soft and bouncy under your feet. The sun is still hidden behind the jagged peaks of the hills, leaving the world in a soft, blue shadow. Everything is quiet, except for the distant, liquid song of a two-bird. You feel the dampness of the dew soaking into your clothes, but the sensation is refreshing rather than cold. In front of you, the Harakeke plants rise up like tall, green swords. They are the giants of this swamp, their long leaves reaching toward the sky, swaying very slowly in the light breeze. You notice how the edges of the leaves catch the faint light, looking like polished silver. This is where your journey begins, not with a needle or a loom, but with the earth itself. You walk forward, and the mud makes a soft, squelching sound that reminds you of someone eating soup very loudly. It is a friendly sort of sound, a reminder that you are part of the landscape now. You find a large cluster of flax, a family of leaves that has grown together for many years. You look at them with respect, noticing how they are arranged. The Maori people see these plants as a family. In the very center is the young, upright leaf, the baby of the group. On either side are the parents protecting the center, and on the outside are the grandparents, the oldest leaves that have seen many seasons and are ready to be used. You understand that you must never take the center leaf or its parents, for that would hurt the heart of the plant and stop it from growing. It is a beautiful way to think about nature, ensuring that there is always life left behind. You reach out and touch the surface of a leaf. It is cool, smooth, and much stronger than it looks. It feels like a mix between heavy paper and soft leather. You have a small, sharp mussel shell in your hand, its edges worn smooth by the sea, but still very effective for cutting. You bend down, feeling the stretch in your back and the warmth of your own breath in the chilly air. You make a clean, diagonal cut at the base of one of the outer leaves. You hear the soft, crisp sound of the fibers giving way, a gentle protest from the plant that smells suddenly like fresh, cut grass and sweet sap. You wonder if the local birds appreciate your commitment to ancient fashion. Though they seem much more interested in the worms you are displacing with your feet. As you work, you begin to collect a bundle of these long, heavy leaves. They are much heavier than you expected, full of the water they have pulled from the swamp. You feel the weight in your arms, a solid and comforting burden. The sap from the cut ends is sticky on your fingers, a clear nectar that smells slightly metallic. A quirky tidbit of history tells us that this sap was not just waste. It was used as a natural medicine for everything from healing burnt skin to easing the pain of a bad tooth. It is nature's own first aid kit, hidden inside a beautiful green leaf. You imagine people hundreds of years ago using this same sticky liquid to help their children feel better, linking you to them through this simple, tactile experience. The mist begins to lift as the sun finally peeks over the hills, turning the gray world into shades of gold and vibrant green. You stop for a moment to watch the light play across the water in the distance. The wetland is alive with tiny movements. Insects skidding across the surface, the wind ruffling the tops of the reeds. You feel a deep sense of peace. There is no internet here, no ringing phones, and no sense of hurry. To make a single cloak, you will need hundreds of these leaves, and the realization makes you smile. It is a project that demands your time and your patience, a slow conversation between you and the land. Historians still argue whether the specific weaving techniques used for these cloaks were a unique evolution triggered by the local environment or a refinement of older styles found across the Pacific. Whatever the truth, the work feels timeless. You move to the next cluster of flax, selecting only the strongest and most vibrant leaves. Your shell tool glides through the green flesh of the plant. You are careful to keep your cuts clean. If this flax were any tougher, you might suspect it was made of recycled truck tires, but it yields to your persistent effort. You think about the mainstream historical fact that Harakeke was perhaps the most important plant in the entire country for the early Maori. Without it, there would be no fishing nets to catch food, no baskets to carry supplies, and no sails to navigate the coastal waters. It was the backbone of their technology, a versatile material that could be transformed into almost anything with enough skill and time. Your bundle is growing large now. You carry it to a dry patch of grass nearby, feeling the muscles in your shoulders working. The physical labor is a good kind of tired, the kind that makes your body feel heavy and ready for a long rest later. You lay the leaves out in a neat row, observing the different shades of green. Some are dark like the forest, others are pale like a lime. You notice the way the light reflects off the waxy surface of the plant. It is designed to shed water, a natural raincoat that you are about to take apart and rebuild. You hope the plant doesn't mind too much. After all, you are turning it into something that will be cherished for generations. You sit down on the grass for a moment, letting your legs rest. The ground is still a bit damp, but you don't mind. You watch a small dragonfly land on the tip of one of your harvested leaves. Its wings are like thin glass, vibrating with a low hum you can barely hear. You feel a connection to this small creature, both of you existing in this quiet morning. The pace of your work is dictated by the rhythm of your own breathing. There is a deep satisfaction in doing something from scratch, starting with a living thing and envisioning the garment it will become. You find yourself wondering if your ancestors ever looked at a flax bush and thought about just wearing a very large leaf instead of doing all this work. But the desire for beauty and warmth always won out. The sun is higher now, and the air is starting to warm up. You can feel the heat on the back of your neck. It is time to start the next part of the process. But you are not in a rush. You pick up another leaf and examine it closely. You can see the long veins running from the base to the tip, the hidden skeleton of the plant. These veins are what you are really after. The muka, the strong inner fibers. To get to them, you will have to strip away the green skin, a task that requires a delicate touch and a lot of repetition. You find a flat stone to work on, the surface smoothed by years of rain. You take your shell and carefully scrape the surface of a leaf. The green outer layer curls away, revealing the pale, cream-colored fibers underneath. They are surprisingly soft to the touch, like silk but with the strength of wire. You do this again and again, the sound of the scraping shell becoming a steady, hypnotic beat. It is a sound that has echoed through these wetlands for centuries. You feel like a small part of a very long chain of people who have sat in the sun, doing exactly what you are doing. The repetition is not boring. It is a form of meditation. Your mind begins to wander to quiet places, drifting away from your daily worries. The pile of green scraps grows at your feet, and the pile of clean fibers grows in your lap. You notice how the fibers shimmer in the sunlight. They have a natural luster that is quite beautiful. You think about how many hours of scraping lie ahead of you. It takes a massive amount of fiber to weave a single cloak, especially one of the high-quality versions intended for a chief. You are looking at weeks of work just to prepare the material. The thought doesn't overwhelm you. Instead, it makes the final goal feel more valuable. In our modern world, we get everything instantly, and we often forget the value of things that take time to create. Here, in the mist and the sun, time has a different meaning. You find yourself talking silently to the flax, thanking it for its strength. The plant seems to be holding on to its leaves with the stubbornness of a toddler holding a forbidden cookie. But eventually, it gives in to your steady hands. Your fingers are becoming stained with the green juice of the plant, a badge of honor for your hard work. You wipe your brow with the back of your hand, leaving a smudge of green there too. You probably look like a very confused, walking hedge to anyone watching from a distance. But there is no one here but the birds and the dragonflies. As you work, you remember hearing that some weavers believe the flax has a spirit of its own. They say that if you approach the plant with a heavy heart or an angry mind, the fibers will break or tangle more easily. You take a deep breath, letting go of any lingering stress. You focus on the feeling of the fibers between your fingers, the way they slide against each other. You try to keep your movements fluid and soft. The more relaxed you are, the better the work goes. It is a lesson that applies to more than just weaving. The mist has completely vanished now, leaving a sky of bright, clear blue. The mountains in the distance are sharp and clear, their peaks still dusted with a little bit of snow. You feel small in this landscape, but in a good way. It is a reminder that the world is vast and full of wonder, and that your part in it is to create something beautiful and lasting. You look at your bundle of flax, and feel a sense of pride. You have harvested it yourself, with respect and care, and you are ready to move on to the next stage of the journey. You stand up and stretch, feeling your joints pop and settle. The sun is warm on your face, and the smell of the wetlands is all around you. You gather up your clean fibers and your remaining leaves, preparing to head back to your shelter. The walk back feels easier than the walk out, even with the extra weight. Your feet know the path now, avoiding the deepest mud and finding the firmest ground. You are leaving the wetlands behind for now, but you will be back. The harakeke will continue to grow. The baby leaves in the center reaching for the sun, protected by their parents, waiting for the day when they too will become part of a story. You think about the cloak you are going to make. It will be more than just a garment. It will be a shield against the wind, a blanket for the night, and a piece of art that tells the world who you are. Every thread you prepare today will be a part of that future. The slow pace of the morning has settled deep into your bones, making your movements calm and deliberate. You are not just making a cloak. You are learning how to be patient, how to listen to the land, and how to find beauty in the simplest of things. The sound of the tui bird follows you as you walk, a clear, ringing melody that seems to celebrate your progress. You feel a light breeze on your cheek, carrying the scent of the sea. It is a perfect day for the beginning of a long project. You imagine the finished cloak, heavy and soft, smelling of the earth and the smoke of the fire. You can almost feel it on your shoulders already, a warm embrace from the past. But for now, there is only the sun, the fibers in your hand, and the long, quiet road ahead. You reach the edge of the wetlands and step onto firmer ground. The grass here is shorter and drier. You look back one last time at the flax bushes, standing tall and green in the bright light. They look peaceful, as if they are resting after their morning contribution. You realize that you have a new appreciation for these plants. They are not just weeds or decorations. They are the source of so much life and culture. You feel a sense of gratitude for the abundance of the earth and for the skills passed down through generations. Your shell tool is tucked safely away, and your fibers are bundled neatly. You are tired, but it is a happy exhaustion. Your mind is quiet, free from the chatter of the modern world. You are ready for a meal and a rest, but you are also looking forward to tomorrow. There is so much more to do. Stripping the rest of the fiber, washing it, beating it to make it soft, and finally, the weaving itself. Each step will take time, and each step will be done with the same care and rhythm as the harvest. As you walk, you find yourself humming a low, wordless tune, matching the rhythm of your footsteps. The world seems to hum along with you. The sun, the wind, the birds, and the plants are all part of the same song. You are just adding your own small part to the melody. It is a comforting thought, a reminder that you are never truly alone when you are working with nature. You are part of the flow of life, a thread in the great weaving of the world. You arrive at your small hut, the smoke from the fire rising in a thin, gray ribbon against the blue sky. It looks welcoming and cozy. You lay your materials down in a safe, dry place and sit on the porch for a moment, watching the shadows begin to lengthen again. The day is moving toward its end, and you are ready to move with it. You close your eyes for a second, still feeling the swaying motion of the flax leaves in your mind. The image is soothing, a gentle rhythm that lulls you toward a state of deep relaxation. The work of the morning is done, and it was good work. You have connected with the land, you have respected the ancient traditions, and you have begun a journey of creation. The fibers of the Harakeke are now a part of your life, and soon they will be a part of your history. You take one last deep breath of the cool afternoon air, feeling completely at peace. The world is quiet, the work is steady, and the night is coming. It is time to rest, to dream of threads and patterns, and to prepare for the slow, beautiful days of weaving that lie ahead. The sun is beginning to dip lower in the sky, casting long, golden fingers of light across the floor of your small wooden shelter. The air is still warm, but a hint of the evening's coolness is creeping in from the edges of the forest. You sit on a low stool, surrounded by the bundles of Harakeke you harvested earlier. Now that the leaves have rested for a short while, they seem to have softened slightly, losing that sharp sword-like rigidity they had in the swamp. This is the moment where the real transformation begins. You are no longer just a collector of plants, you are becoming a creator of thread. You reach for your most important tool, a simple mussel shell that fits perfectly into the curve of your palm. It is smooth and cool, a gift from the ocean that you will now use to unlock the secrets of the land. You take one long leaf and lay it across a smooth, flat piece of wood that serves as your work surface. You can see the dark green skin of the leaf, which feels like a waxy shield protecting the prize inside. You hold the shell firmly but not too tightly. If you press too hard, you might cut through the precious fibers, but if you are too gentle, the green skin will stay stubbornly attached. It is a balance that your hands seem to remember, even if your mind is still learning. You make a small, shallow cut across the width of the leaf, just deep enough to snap the outer layer. You hear a very soft, crisp sound, like the breaking of a thin wafer. Then, with a slow and steady motion, you begin to scrape. As the shell glides along the leaf, the green outer skin, known as the para, begins to curl away. It comes off in small, wet ribbons that smell strongly of crushed grass and minerals. Underneath, the muka is revealed. These are the inner fibers, and they are a beautiful, creamy white. They look like long strands of hair, or perhaps the finest silk you have ever seen. You realize that you are peeling away the armor of the plant to find its soft, strong heart. It is a slow process, and you have many leaves to go. If you were in a hurry, this would feel like a chore, but here, in the fading light, it feels like a song. Each stroke of the shell is a beat, and the rhythm is soothing to your soul. You think about how people today get frustrated when a web page takes 3 seconds to load. Yet here you are, spending hours just to prepare a handful of thread. You find a bit of humor in the state of your hands. They are now thoroughly stained with the green sap of the flax, a vibrant color that seems to have soaked deep into your skin. You look like you have been trying to turn into a forest creature by hand. It is a messy job, and you imagine a modern fashion designer's reaction to seeing their raw materials covered in swamp juice. They would probably run for the nearest bottle of hand sanitizer, but you find the stains oddly satisfying. They are proof of your work and your connection to the material. You wonder if your green fingers might actually help you blend in better with the trees later. Though you doubt the local birds are easily fooled, the mainstream historical fact about this process is that the Maori people did not have access to mammals like sheep for wool or plants like cotton. This meant that harakeke was not just one option for making clothes. It was the primary option. Without the ability to create muka from these leaves, the people would have had no way to make the warm, durable clothing needed for the cooler climate of this new land. It was a technological breakthrough born of necessity and deep observation of nature. You feel the weight of that history as you continue to scrape. You are using the same methods that kept people warm and protected for hundreds of years, long before the first explorers from Europe arrived with their heavy wool and metal button. A quirky tidbit of history that many people don't know is that the mussel shells used for this were not just random scraps found on the beach. A weaver would often have a favorite shell, one that had the perfect edge and the perfect weight. Some shells were even buried in damp earth or treated in specific ways to keep them from becoming brittle. A good shell was a prized possession, and you can understand why. Your shell feels like an extension of your own hand. It doesn't feel like a cold industrial tool. It feels alive, working with you to bring the fibers to light. You find yourself checking the edge every few leaves, making sure it stays sharp and smooth. As you work, your mind drifts to the bigger picture of history. Historians still argue whether the complex techniques of muka weaving were something the Maori developed entirely on their own after arriving in New Zealand, or if they were an adaptation of the bark cloth-making traditions they brought from the tropical islands of Polynesia. In the tropics, people made cloth by beating the bark of the mulberry tree, but that tree didn't grow well in the colder south. Some believe the weavers simply took their old skills and applied them to this new, abundant plant, while others think it was a completely new invention born from the unique properties of the harakeke. You look at the pile of white fiber growing in your lap and decide that, regardless of how it started, it is a masterpiece of human cleverness. The pile of green scraps on the floor is getting larger, and your back is starting to feel a little stiff. You stand up and stretch, hearing your joints give a small, satisfied creak. You walk to the doorway and look out at the forest. The birds are finishing their evening songs, and the first few stars are starting to twinkle in the darkening sky. You feel a deep sense of accomplishment. You have transformed a bundle of wild leaves into something that looks like it belongs in a palace. You go back to your seat and pick up a handful of the muka. It is slightly damp and very strong. You try to snap a single strand with your fingers, but it holds firm. It is amazing that something so soft can be so tough. The next step is to clean and soften the fibers even further. You take your pile of muka and head toward the small stream that runs near your shelter. The water is clear and cold, bubbling over smooth stones. You kneel by the bank and dip the fibers into the current. You watch as the water washes away any remaining sap and tiny bits of green skin. The fibers swirl in the water like a ghostly cloud. You use your hands to gently agitate them, making sure every strand is clean. The sound of the water is a steady, white noise that drowns out the rest of the world. It is a very peaceful place to be. Your hands feel cold in the water, but the sensation is wakeful and grounding. After the washing comes the beating. You have a large, rounded stone that you have kept for this purpose. You lay the wet muka on a flat rock and begin to tap it with the stone. This is not a hard, aggressive hitting, but a firm and steady rhythm. The goal is to break down the internal structure of the fiber, just enough to make it soft and flexible, without destroying its strength. This part of the process is known as the patu muka. You listen to the sound of the stone meeting the fiber, a dull, rhythmic thud that echoes softly against the trees. It is a hypnotic sound, and you find yourself swaying in time with your own movements. You feel like a drummer in a very quiet orchestra. You imagine that if you were doing this in a modern city, your neighbors would probably call the police to complain about the weird thumping sound coming from your apartment. But here, the forest doesn't mind. The trees have heard this sound for generations. It is part of the natural order of things. You think about how many hours a single cloak requires. To make a high-quality garment, you will need to prepare thousands of these strands. It is a staggering amount of work, yet you don't feel overwhelmed. Each strand is a small victory. You are building something great, one tap of the stone at a time. It makes you realize that most of the best things in life aren't found. They are made, very slowly and with a lot of care. As the fibers become softer, they also become more lustrous. They start to shine with a natural, pearly glow. You run your fingers through them, and they feel like the hair of a mermaid. You wonder if the original weavers ever looked at the finished muka and thought it was too beautiful to even weave into a cloak. It is a raw material that has its own inherent elegance. You finish beating the last of your current batch and hold it up to the fading light. It is perfect. It is ready to be dried and eventually dyed, but for now it just needs to rest. You hang the wet bundles over a wooden rail inside your hut. They look like pale ribbons, hanging in the shadows. You return to your stool and look at the remaining leaves. There are still many to go, but you decide to stop for the night. Your eyes are getting heavy, and the rhythm of the day has finally caught up with you. You tidy up your workspace, moving the green scraps to a pile outside, where they will eventually return to the earth. You clean your mussel shell and put it away in a small woven bag. It is your partner in this journey, and you treat it with respect. You feel a strange kind of friendship with the shell, as if it knows exactly what you are trying to achieve. You sit for a few more minutes in the quiet of your hut. The only sound is the occasional pop of the small fire you have started in the hearth and the gentle rustle of the wind in the thatch of the roof. You feel a profound sense of connection to the past. In our world, we are so disconnected from the things we use. We buy a shirt without knowing where the cotton grew or who spun the thread. But here, you know every single thing about this cloak. To be. You know where the plants grew. You know the sound they made when they were cut, and you know the exact weight of the shell that stripped their skin. This knowledge makes the object feel more real, more important. You think about the light jokes you could make about your current situation. You are essentially a human flax processor, working for the grand salary of $0 an hour, plus all the green sap you can carry. It is a career choice that your career counselor probably never mentioned. And yet, you wouldn't trade this moment for any office job in the world. There is a luxury in this kind of focus that money can't buy. It is the luxury of being fully present in what you are doing, without your mind racing toward the next task or the next deadline. You are just you, the shell, and the fiber. The mainstream historical fact that keeps coming back to you is the sheer variety of these cloaks. Some were plain and functional, meant for daily work in the rain. Others were covered in dog hair or feathers, reserved for the most important people and the most solemn occasions. But they all started exactly like this, with a person, a shell, and a leaf. It is a reminder that even the most complex and beautiful things have humble beginnings. A king's cloak and a commoner's cape both began as a green leaf in a swamp. There is a nice bit of equality in that thought. You find yourself wondering about the scholarly debate again. If the weavers did invent this technique after arriving in New Zealand, how did they figure it out? Did someone accidentally drop a leaf and step on it, noticing the fibers inside? Or was it a long process of trial and error, testing every plant in the forest until they found the one that worked? It is fascinating to think about the curiosity and intelligence of those early ancestors. They were scientists of the natural world, observing, testing, and refining their knowledge over centuries. You feel like a student in their classroom, learning a lesson that is much older than any book. The fire has burned down to a soft, orange glow, and the room is filled with a gentle warmth. You feel your muscles beginning to relax completely. The tension of the day is melting away, replaced by a heavy, comfortable tiredness. You look at the bundles of Muka hanging on the rail. They catch the firelight, glowing softly in the dark. They are the physical manifestation of your patience. Tomorrow they will be dry, and you will begin the process of dyeing them with the colors of the earth. But that is a story for another time. For now, the work is done, and the night is quiet. You lie down on your sleeping mat, feeling the coolness of the air on your face and the warmth of the fire on your feet. You close your eyes, and in the darkness, you can still see the rhythmic motion of the shell. You can still hear the soft scrape against the leaf. It is a pleasant image to fall asleep to. You feel a sense of peace that is hard to find in the modern world. You are in tune with the rhythm of the earth, and it is a very gentle rhythm indeed. You find yourself smiling as you drift towards sleep, thinking about your green-stained fingers. You are part of the forest now, a weaver of dreams and history. The sounds of the night are a soft lullaby. The wind whispers through the flax bushes outside, and the stream continues its endless song. You feel safe and protected in your small shelter, surrounded by the materials of your craft. The Muka is waiting, the shell is resting, and the land is quiet. You take one last deep breath, smelling the scent of the drying fibers and the dying fire. It is the smell of creation, the smell of history. You are ready to rest, to let your mind wander through the silver mists of the morning and the golden lights of the afternoon. The journey of the cloak has only just begun, but you have already found something precious along the way. You have found a way to slow down, to listen, and to be at peace with the world. As your breathing slows and your heart finds a steady, quiet beat, you feel the weight of the day lifting. The images of the Harakeke leaves, the white fibers, and the clear water of the stream all blend together into a soft, hazy dream. You are no longer worried about the word count of your life or the deadlines of the world. You are simply a part of the long, slow story of the weaving. And it is a very good story to be a part of. The darkness is warm and welcoming, a soft cloak of its own that settles over you as you finally drift into a deep and dreamless sleep. The morning arrives with a soft, gray light that filters through the cracks of your shelter, finding the bundles of Muka you hung to dry last night. They have changed. The damp, heavy strands have become light and airy, catching the slightest breeze that wanders through the room. They shimmer like frozen moonlight. You reach out and touch them, feeling how crisp and clean they are. They are no longer a plant, they have become a canvas. Now, your task is to bring color to this white world, using the secrets hidden in the bark of trees and the dark heart of the swamp. You move slowly, your body feeling well, rested and steady. The rhythm of your work is changing from the sharp scrape of the shell to the slow simmer of the hearth and the cool, thick embrace of the earth. You step outside and walk toward the edge of the forest, where the ancient trees stand like silent guardians. You are looking for the tanakaha, the celery pine. It is a tree that carries the color of the earth in its skin. You find one standing on a gentle slope, its leaves unique and fan-like. You carry a small stone tool today, a different weight from your mussel shell. You apologize silently to the tree, much like you did with the flax, before you carefully remove a few sections of its thick, reddish, brown bark. You only take what you need, making sure the tree can heal itself. The bark feels rough and ancient under your fingers, smelling of deep earth and resin. If you were looking for a quick fix, you might just use a marker pen, but there is no room for plastic in this story. You are working with the slow chemistry of the forest. Back at your hearth, you prepare a fire. The wood catches slowly, the smoke curling up in a lazy, blue ribbon. You have a large vessel filled with clear water, and you begin to break the bark into small pieces. You drop them into the water one by one. You hear the soft splash as each piece breaks the surface, followed by the gentle hiss of the water beginning to heat over the stones. This is a mainstream historical fact that many people find fascinating. The Maori used the tannins in the tanakaha bark as a mordant and a dye. Tannins are the same things that make your tea taste slightly bitter and turn the leaves of a forest brown in the autumn. Here, they are the key to a color that will never fade, a deep, reddish brown that looks like a sunset trapped in thread. As the water begins to simmer, the scent fills the air. It is a rich, woody smell that makes you feel grounded and calm. It is a bit like the smell of an old library mixed with a damp autumn morning. You imagine that if someone tried to sell this scent as a candle today, it would be called something like forest wisdom or perhaps disappointed tea. But here, it is just the smell of progress. You stir the pot with a long, smooth stick, watching as the clear water transforms into a dark, amber liquid. The steam rises up, warming your face and making your hair feel a little damp. You are not in a rush. The bark needs time to release its magic. You sit by the fire, watching the way the flames dance and lick at the sides of the vessel. You think about the scholarly debate that often arises when historians look at these ancient dyeing processes. Historians still argue whether the specific order of the dyeing, soaking in bark first and then in mud, was a discovered chemical necessity, or if it carried a deeper symbolic meaning about the union of the forest and the earth. To you, sitting here with the steam in your face, it feels like both. It is a perfect collaboration between different parts of nature. You take a bundle of your precious white muka and gently lower it into the amber bath. You watch as the fibers soak up the liquid, changing from the color of moonlight to the color of a polished acorn. You use your stick to push the fibers down, ensuring every strand is coated. While the fibers soak in the bark juice, you prepare for the second half of the transformation. This requires a journey back to a different part of the wetland, to a place where the water is still and the mud is a very specific shade of blue-black. This mud is known as paru. It is not just ordinary dirt. It is iron, rich silt that has been sitting in the dark for a long time. You walk through the tall grass, feeling the warmth of the sun on your shoulders. You find a small, hidden pool where the water looks like dark glass. You reach down and plunge your hand into the mud. It is cold, thick, and surprisingly smooth. It feels like heavy cream made of shadows. You pull up a handful and watch it ooze between your fingers. It is a quirky tidbit of history that not all mud is created equal. Only specific patches of paru were used, and families would guard the location of their favorite mud holes for generations. You fill a wooden bowl with this dark, heavy mud, feeling the weight of it in your arms. It is a messy business, and you find yourself covered in black splatters. You probably look like you've had a very unsuccessful spa day, or perhaps like you've tried to wrestle a giant squid. You have to laugh at yourself, standing in the middle of a beautiful forest, covered in tree juice and swamp mud. It is a far cry from the sterile, clean world of modern fashion. But there is a deep satisfaction in this mess. You are literally wearing the landscape. You carry the mud back to your hut, the bowl balanced carefully. Now comes the most magical part of the process. You take the muka out of the bark dye, which is now a warm brown. You don't wash it. Instead, you take the brown fibers and begin to rub the dark paru mud into them. You do this with your hands, feeling the grit of the earth against the silkiness of the fiber. As the iron in the mud meets the tannins from the bark, a chemical reaction occurs. Right before your eyes, the brown turns into a deep, velvety black. It is a black so dark it seems to swallow the light. It is not a flat, painted color. It has a depth and a soul to it. It is the color of the night sky before the stars come out. You spend the next few hours working the mud into the fibers, a slow and repetitive task that settles your mind. The rhythm of your hands is like a heartbeat. You are massaging the earth into the plant. You think about how this black color was highly prized. It was used to create the striking geometric patterns that define the borders of the finest cloaks. It had to be perfect. If the mud was too sandy, it could damage the fibers. If it wasn't iron-rich enough, the black would be gray and dull. But your mud is perfect. It is smooth and potent. You feel like a magician turning the pale hair of a plant into the dark silk of a leader. As you finish each bundle, you rinse it gently in a bucket of clear water. The excess mud washes away, leaving behind the permanent, deep black. You hang these new dark strands next to the white ones. The contrast is beautiful. They look like piano keys or the stripes of a hidden forest creature. You also have some fibers that you have dyed a soft, golden yellow using the bark of the rorokau tree. This color is like captured sunshine, a bright counterpoint to the deep black and the pure white. Your collection of colors is growing, and with it, the possibilities for your weave. You are no longer just preparing material, you are preparing a palette. The sun is beginning to set, and the air is turning cool again. You sit on your porch, your hands now stained a dark, earthy gray that will take days to wash off. You don't mind. These stains are like a map of your work. You look at the rows of colored muka hanging in the breeze. They sway gently, a forest of threads waiting to be organized into a story. You feel a sense of peace that is as deep as the black dye you just created. There is no urgency here. The threads will dry when they are ready, and the weaving will begin when the time is right. You have followed the rules of the earth, and the earth has given you its colors in return. You think about the mainstream historical fact that these natural dyes were so effective that many cloaks, collected by early explorers, still hold their vibrant colors today, hundreds of years later. They haven't faded in the sun or washed out in the rain. They were built to last, just like the stories they represent. You wonder if anything we make today will last that long. Our plastic and our chemicals seem so temporary compared to the bark and the mud. There is a lesson in that, a reminder to build things with care and to use materials that have their own strength and history. A light breeze carries the scent of the dying fire and the wet earth. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the sounds of the evening wash over you. You hear the rustle of the leaves and the distant murmur of the stream. You feel completely in tune with your surroundings. You are not just a person in a forest, you are a part of the forest's cycle. You have taken from the tree, the flax, and the swamp, and you will turn them into something that honors them all. It is a heavy responsibility, but it is also a beautiful one. You feel the weight of it in your hands, a solid and comforting feeling. You imagine the weaving process that lies ahead. It will be even slower than the dyeing. You will have to count every thread, crossing them over and under in a rhythmic dance that has no end. But you are ready for it. The preparation has taught you patience. It has taught you to appreciate the small changes. The way a leaf turns to fiber, the way bark turns to dye, the way mud turns to color. These are the small miracles of the everyday, and you are lucky enough to see them up close. You find yourself smiling at the thought of the long days of weaving ahead. It is a prospect that would bore most people to tears, but to you, it feels like a gift. You go back inside and stir the fire one last time. The orange glow reflects off the colored threads, making them look like they are vibrating with their own internal light. You feel a sense of warmth and security in your small home. You have everything you need. You have food, fire, and the materials for your craft. It is a simple life, but it is a rich one. You realize that wealth isn't about how many things you have, it's about how much you understand the things you do have. You know these threads. You know their history and their heart. That is a kind of wealth that can't be bought. You think about the quirky tidbit of history regarding the yellow dye. Some weavers would add charred wood or specific leaves to the yellow dye to change its shade, creating a spectrum of gold that could represent different aspects of the natural world. It was a sophisticated understanding of color theory, long before the modern color wheel was ever invented. These weavers were artists of the highest order, using the limited resources of their environment to create a visual language that spoke of status, family, and the gods. You feel humbled to be following in their footsteps, even in your own small way. The night is fully here now, and the world is quiet. You lie down on your mat, your mind filled with the colors of the day. You see the reddish-brown of the bark, the blue-black of the mud, and the golden shimmer of the rorokau. They swirl together in your thoughts like a slow, moving river. You feel your body sinking into the mat, the tiredness of the day becoming a soft and heavy blanket. You are ready to dream of patterns and threads, of the slow and rhythmic dance of the weave. The work of the day is done, and it was good work. As you drift toward sleep, you think about the scholars who still argue about the meanings of the colors. Some say black represents the earth and the beginning of time, while white represents the light and the world of the living. To you, they are simply the colors of the forest, the colors of the home you have made for yourself here. They are the colors of the cloak that will soon keep you warm. They are practical, beautiful, and true, and that is enough. You take a final, deep breath, the scent of the drying muka still lingering in the air. It is a clean, honest smell. Your heart finds its slow, evening rhythm, matching the quiet pulse of the forest outside. You are at peace with the world and with yourself. The journey of the cloak is progressing, one slow step at a time. Tomorrow, the threads will be dry and ready for the first knot. But tonight, there is only the darkness and the stars. You let yourself go, sliding gently into the soft embrace of sleep, knowing that you are exactly where you are meant to be. The colors of the earth are safe in your hands, and the stories of the ancestors are waiting to be woven. You imagine the first row of the weave, the way your fingers will guide the muka through the air. It is a comforting thought, a steady and predictable future. You feel a sense of gratitude for the patience you have found. In a world that is always rushing, you have found a way to stand still. You have found a way to listen to the trees and the mud. You have found a way to be a weaver of history. And as the last embers of the fire fade to gray, you finally fall into a deep and restful slumber, surrounded by the quiet beauty of the colors you have created. The forest whispers to you in your dreams, a soft and wordless song that tells of the long ages of the earth. You see the flax growing in the mist, the tanakaha reaching for the sun, and the paru resting in the cool dark of the swamp. They are all part of you now, and you are part of them. The weaving has already begun in your heart, a slow and rhythmic dance that will continue long after you wake. For now, just sleep. Let the colors rest, let the threads dry, and let the world go on without you for a while. You have done enough for today. Sweet dreams of bark and mud, and the beautiful black of the night. The morning has turned into a bright, still afternoon, and your workspace feels like a sanctuary of calm. The colored threads of muka are finally dry, hanging in perfect, straight lines like a soft, silent waterfall against the wall. You reach out and run your hand across them, feeling the different textures. The black strands feel slightly denser from the iron in the mud, while the white strands are as light as a cloud. Now, it is time to begin the most sacred part of the journey. You are no longer preparing, you are building. You take two sturdy wooden poles, smoothed by years of use, and push them firmly into the soft earth floor of your hut. These poles, known as Huruhuru, will be the frame for your creation. They stand about shoulder width apart, waiting to hold the weight of your history. You tie a strong, thick thread of muka between the two poles, stretching it until it is as tight as a drum string. This is the foundation, the horizontal line from which everything else will hang. You begin to attach the vertical threads, the winu, one by one. You fold each long strand over the foundation line, letting the ends hang down toward the ground. You do this with extreme care, ensuring that each thread is exactly the same distance from its neighbor. It is a slow, repetitive motion that requires a steady hand and a quiet mind. You think about how people today get stressed out trying to untangle their phone charger cables, and you realize that your current task would probably cause a modern person to simply give up and go for a walk. You have hundreds of threads to align, and you are only just beginning. As you work, the room is filled with the soft, rustling sound of the fibers brushing against each other. It sounds like a gentle rain falling on dry leaves. You find the rhythm of the work to be very peaceful. You pick up a thread, loop it, and smooth it down. Pick up, loop, smooth. Your fingers move with a life of their own, guided by a memory that seems to exist in your very bones. You feel a sense of connection to all the weavers who have sat in this same position, their backs straight and their eyes focused on the rows of white and black. This is the mainstream historical fact of Maori weaving. It is not done on a loom with a shuttle and a frame that moves. Instead, it is a technique called watu, or finger, weaving. Every single twist and knot is made by your own hands, without the help of a machine. It is a slow, intimate process that creates a fabric unlike any other in the world. A quirky tidbit of history that adds to the mystery of the craft is the tradition of the ware pora, the house of weaving. This wasn't always a physical building, but a state of being. A young weaver would be initiated into this house through a special ceremony, where they would be taught the sacred knowledge of the patterns and the rules of the craft. It was believed that once you entered the ware pora, your mind would be opened and your hands would become more skillful. You feel a bit like you are entering that space now. The rest of the world has faded away, leaving only the poles, the threads, and the steady beat of your own heart. You wonder if your fingers are enjoying the attention, or if they are secretly wishing they could be doing something easier, like pointing at things or eating snacks. You begin the first horizontal row, the aho. This is the thread that will lock all the vertical strands together. You use a technique called watu horua, which involves using two pairs of threads that you twist around each vertical strand. You take the two horizontal threads in your right hand and the vertical strand in your left. You cross the horizontal threads over and under, trapping the vertical one in a tight, secure embrace. Then you move to the next one. Twist, cross, move. Twist, cross, move. It is a dance of the fingers that creates a strong, flexible fabric. You notice how the first row starts to give the hanging threads a sense of order. They are no longer just a collection of strands. They are becoming a solid object. Historians still argue whether the complexity of these early weaving patterns was influenced by the geometric designs found in much older pottery from across the Pacific, or if they were a completely unique response to the vertical nature of the hanging flax fibers. Looking at the way the threads naturally want to sit, you suspect the plant itself had a lot to say about the design. The Harakeke has its own ideas about how it wants to be shaped. You feel like you are having a very long, very slow conversation with the fibers. Sometimes they are cooperative and slide into place perfectly. Other times, they seem to be feeling a bit stubborn, requiring a gentle tug or a bit of smoothing to behave. You have to be patient. You can't rush a cloak, and you certainly can't rush a plant that spent months growing in a swamp just to get to your hands. The light in the hut is changing as the afternoon moves toward evening. The sun is lower now, casting long, golden bars across your work. The shadows of the vertical threads look like a forest of thin trees on the floor. You find yourself getting lost in the pattern. You are working on the top border, which will be a simple, elegant line of black and white. You alternate the colors with a precision that would make a computer jealous. You think about how many thousands of these twists you will have to make before the cloak is finished. It is a staggering number, yet it doesn't feel like a burden. Each twist is a moment of time, a tiny piece of your life that you are weaving into the fabric. You are literally making a garment out of time and patience. You find a bit of humor in the thought that your fingers are basically performing a marathon in a very small space. They are moving miles and miles, but they never leave the area between the two poles. You imagine them wearing tiny sweatbands and little running shoes, cheering each other on as they complete another row. You have to be careful not to laugh out loud, as that might break your concentration. The work requires a specific kind of focus, a soft, relaxed attention that allows you to notice a mistake without getting frustrated by it. If a thread is out of place, you simply untwist the row and fix it. There is no eraser here, only the willingness to do it again until it is right. The first few inches of the weave are the hardest. This is the foundation of the entire cloak, and if it is not straight and even, the rest of the garment will be crooked. You use your fingers to measure the tension, making sure the rows are not too tight and not too loose. You want the fabric to be strong but supple, something that will drape comfortably over the shoulders. You feel the texture of the muka under your skin. It is slightly oily from the natural resins of the plant, which helps the threads slide past each other. The scent of the fibers is still there, that earthy, grassy smell that reminds you of the wetlands. It is a comforting smell, a reminder of where you started. As the rows grow, you begin to see the beauty of the watu technique. Because you are twisting the threads around each other, the fabric has a three-dimensional quality. It is not flat like a piece of cloth from a machine. It has a subtle texture and a rhythmic pattern that catches the light in different ways. You can see the tiny ridges and valleys created by the twists. It looks like the surface of a calm lake when a light breeze blows across it. You feel a deep sense of satisfaction. This is something that no machine could ever truly replicate. It has the imperfections and the soul of a human hand. You think about the mainstream historical fact that these cloaks were more than just clothing. They were symbols of status and prestige, known as Kahu. A well-made cloak could take a year or more to complete, and it would be passed down through families for generations. Each cloak had its own name and its own story. By starting this weave, you are starting a new story. You wonder who will wear this cloak in 100 years, and what stories they will tell while wrapped in its warmth. You feel a sense of responsibility to do your best work. You are not just making a coat, You are making an heirloom. A quirky tidbit that makes you smile is the belief that a weaver should never work when they are feeling angry or upset. It was thought that the negative energy would be woven into the cloak, making it unlucky or uncomfortable for the wearer. You take a moment to check in with yourself. How are you feeling? You feel calm, a bit sleepy, and very much at peace. The rhythmic motion of your hands has acted like a form of meditation, clearing your mind of any worries or stress. You are in the perfect state of mind for weaving. You are putting nothing but quietness and care into every knot. Your fingers are the messengers of your peace. The sun has disappeared behind the trees now, and the hut is filled with a soft, blue twilight. You decide to finish one last row before stopping for the night. This row is particularly important, as it marks the end of the foundation and the beginning of the main body of the cloak. You take your time, making sure every twist is perfect. The fibers feel cool in the evening air. You notice how the black threads seem to disappear into the shadows, while the white ones still catch the faint light from the doorway. It is a beautiful contrast, a reminder of the balance between day and night, light and dark. You step back and look at your work. It is only a few inches high, but it is solid and beautiful. The rows are straight, the tension is even, and the colors are vibrant. You feel a surge of pride. You have turned a pile of loose fibers into the beginning of a masterpiece. The two poles, the turu, look like silent companions, holding your work with a steady, unyielding strength. You reach out and touch the fabric one last time. It feels firm and cool. You can feel the strength of the Harakeke and the history of the earth in every strand. It is a powerful feeling, a connection to something much larger than yourself. You find yourself making a light joke about how your ancestors didn't have to worry about Netflix or social media distracting them from their weaving. Their only distraction was probably a particularly loud bird or the smell of dinner cooking. You imagine a group of weavers sitting together, sharing stories and jokes as they worked, their fingers moving in a synchronized dance. It sounds like a lovely way to spend a day. Even though you are working alone, you don't feel lonely. You have the threads, the trees, and the memories of the Ware-Pora to keep you company. Historians still argue about the specific mathematical precision used by the master weavers. Some believe they had a complex system of counting and measuring, while others think it was purely intuitive, a sense of rhythm and balance developed over a lifetime of practice. You suspect it is a bit of both. You find yourself counting the threads without even thinking about it. 1, 2, 3, twist. 1, 2, 3, twist. It is a natural pulse, like the beating of your heart or the movement of the tides. You don't need a ruler when your hands know the way. As you prepare to tidy up for the evening, you feel a deep sense of gratitude for the day. You have accomplished something meaningful, something that required your full presence and your best effort. The world outside may be full of noise and hurry, but here, in your small hut, time has slowed down to the pace of a single thread. You feel a heavy, comfortable tiredness in your shoulders and your hands. It is the kind of tiredness that leads to a deep and restful sleep. You look at your work one last time, a small strip of black and white hanging between the poles. It is a promise of what is to come. You walk to the door and look out at the forest. The stars are starting to appear, tiny points of light in the vast, dark sky. The air is cool and smells of wood smoke and damp earth. You feel completely at home. You are a weaver, a creator, a part of the long and beautiful history of this land. You are ready to rest, to let your mind wander through the patterns and stories of the weave. Tomorrow, you will return to the poles, and the dance of the fingers will begin again. But for now, there is only the quiet of the night and the soft, steady rhythm of your own breathing. You think about the scholarly debate once more, the one about whether the patterns were ancient or new. To you, it doesn't really matter. What matters is the feeling of the fiber in your hand and the way the fabric grows, row by row. It is a living tradition, something that is created anew every time a weaver sits down between the Huruhuru. You are not just repeating the past, you are bringing it into the present. You are making it real with every twist of your fingers. It is a beautiful and humbling thought. You feel a sense of peace that is as deep and quiet as the forest itself. You lie down on your mat, the image of the weave still clear in your mind. You can see the rows of black and white, the tiny ridges of the twists, and the way the threads hang down like a curtain. You feel your body sinking into the ground, the earth supporting you just as the foundation line supports the winu. You are part of the structure of the world, a thread in the great weaving of life. You take a final, deep breath, letting the scent of the Muka fill your lungs. It is the scent of your work, the scent of your history. As you drift toward sleep, you find yourself smiling. You think about the rows you will weave tomorrow, the patterns you will create, and the colors you will blend. It is a happy prospect, a future filled with rhythm and beauty. You are no longer in a rush to finish. You have learned that the process is just as important as the result. Each twist, each knot, each moment of focus is a gift. You are a weaver of dreams, and the dreams are good. The night is warm and welcoming, a soft cloak of its own that settles over you, as you finally drift into a deep and dreamless sleep. The forest whispers to you, a gentle lullaby of wind and leaves. The stream continues its endless song, a rhythmic pulse that matches the beat of your own heart. You are safe, you are protected, and you are exactly where you are meant to be. The work of the day is done, and it was beautiful work. You have laid the foundation, and the story has begun. Sleep now, and let the threads of your life weave themselves into a pattern of peace and rest. The journey continues tomorrow, but tonight there is only the quiet and the stars, sweet dreams of black and white, and the soft, steady rhythm of the hand-woven world. The darkness is not empty. It is full of the potential of the morning. You can almost feel the fibers waiting for you, standing silent in the hut, ready for the touch of your fingers. But for now, they are resting too. The Huruhuru hold their burden with a quiet strength, and the earth holds you with a gentle embrace. You are part of the flow of history, a single strand in a vast and ancient tapestry. And that is a very good thing to be. You let go of the day, sliding gently into the soft, velvet darkness, your heart at peace and your soul at rest. The first light of dawn is a pale, watery silver as it creeps across the floor of your hut, finding the upright poles of your weave. You have slept deeply, your dreams filled with the rhythmic crossing of threads, and you wake with a sense of quiet purpose. Your hands feel rested, the stiffness in your joints having faded into a supple readiness. You sit once again between the two wooden poles, the turuturu, which have become like old friends who never speak, but always listen. The small section of weaving you completed yesterday looks back at you, a solid and comforting reality in the morning gloom. Today, however, the work becomes more complex. You are moving beyond the simple foundation and into the world of patterns. The taniko. This is where you will tell the stories of your ancestors using nothing but triangles, diamonds, and lines. It is a language of geometry, a way of speaking without words that has been passed down through countless generations. You reach for the dyed muka, the deep black of the swamp mud and the golden yellow of the bark, which you prepared with such care. They are your ink, and the white vertical threads are your paper. You begin to work on the taniko border, a decorative strip that will run along the edges of the cloak. This technique is different from the main weave. While the body of the cloak is about strength and warmth, the taniko is about identity and artistry. You use your fingers to wrap the colored threads around the vertical ones, creating tiny blocks of color. It is incredibly slow work. If you thought the previous rows were a test of patience, this is like trying to paint a mural using only a single hair from a cat's whisker. You have to count every single thread, ensuring that the black meets the yellow at exactly the right point to form a sharp, clean angle. Your fingers move in a tiny, focused space, performing more math than a high school algebra teacher on a Tuesday morning. You are calculating the spacing of diamonds and the slope of triangles. If you miscount by even one thread, the entire pattern will eventually lean to one side, like a very confused mountain. You find a bit of humor in this. You imagine yourself in a modern office, trying to explain to a boss why you've spent 3 hours only to produce half an inch of a geometric triangle. They would probably suggest a more efficient way to do it, perhaps with a printer or a stamp. But they wouldn't understand the soul that lives in the manual count. There is a luxury in this precision, a feeling of being completely in control of a very small, very beautiful world. A mainstream historical fact that you find yourself contemplating is that taniko is a unique form of weaving found only in this part of the world. Unlike the weaving of many other cultures, which often uses a loom and a shuttle to pass the horizontal thread through the vertical ones, taniko is entirely a product of the fingers. Every twist is a conscious choice. This allows the weaver to create incredibly intricate patterns that look almost like they were embroidered on top of the fabric, but they are actually part of the structure itself. It is a masterpiece of human ingenuity, developed in isolation over hundreds of years. You feel the weight of this uniqueness as you work. You are not just making a pattern, you are practicing a craft that exists nowhere else on Earth. You begin to form the first pattern, known as a ronui. It consists of large triangles, one pointing up and one pointing down, representing the mountains and the valleys of the land. It is a design that speaks of stability and the enduring nature of the earth. As you weave the black threads against the white, the image of the mountains you saw from the wetland comes back to you. You remember the sharp, jagged peaks and the soft shadows in the valleys. You are putting those mountains into the cloak, capturing the landscape in a series of tiny, hand-twisted knots. It is a beautiful way to carry your home with you. Wherever you go, you find that your breathing naturally slows down to match the rhythm of the triangles. Up, across, down. Up, across, down. It is a visual heartbeat. As the morning progresses, the hut warms up, and the scent of the dried harakeke becomes more pronounced. It is a sweet, dusty smell that reminds you of old hay and sunshine. You reach for a golden thread and begin to outline the triangles. The yellow bark dye is vibrant and warm, providing a sharp contrast to the deep black. You think about a quirky tidbit of history you once heard. Some ancient weavers believed that if a spider started building a web near your work, it was a sign that the gods approved of your pattern choice. You look around the corners of your hut, half hoping to see a tiny eight-legged cricket hanging from the rafters. You haven't seen one yet, but you decide to take the silence of the room as a form of silent approval anyway. You wonder if the spider would be impressed by your technique, or if it would find your weaving a bit too slow and clunky compared to its own silk spinning abilities. The complexity of the work increases as you move into a more intricate design called pahik. This pattern consists of zig-zag lines that represent the flow of water and the paths of the ancestors. It is much harder to weave than the triangles because the lines are constantly shifting. You have to be incredibly focused, watching the way the colors interact. Historians still argue whether these patterns were a static tradition passed down unchanged for centuries, or if each individual weaver was expected to add their own unique signature or variation to the design. To you, it feels like both. You are following the rules of the ancestors, but the tension of your fingers and the way you choose to blend the colors are uniquely yours. You are part of a long conversation, adding your own quiet voice to the story of the tribe. You take a short break to stretch your back, feeling the muscles along your spine give a series of small, satisfied pops. You look at your hands, which are still slightly stained from the mud and the bark. They look like the hands of someone who works with the earth, and you are proud of them. You recall that iron, rich mud from the swamp you used in the previous sections. It feels different now that it's dried into the fibers. It has given the black threads a slight stiffness and a subtle metallic sheen that catches the light. It's funny to think that something as messy as swamp mud could result in something as elegant as this pattern. You imagine telling a modern person that their high-end fashion accessory was made using dirt and tree bark. They would probably be horrified until they saw the finished result. You sit back down and return to the weave. The work has a hypnotic quality that makes the hours disappear. You find yourself thinking about the ancestors whose stories you are weaving. You imagine them sitting in similar huts, listening to the same sounds of the forest, and feeling the same texture of the muka between their fingers. You are not just making a cloak for yourself, you are making a connection to them. The patterns are a way of remembering where you came from and who you are. The Aronui triangles are the mountains of your birth. The pahik lines are the rivers of your journey, and the small diamonds you are about to start are the stars that guided your people across the ocean. It is a biography in thread. You decide to include a pattern called Aotearoa, or the teeth of the monster. These are small, sharp triangles that represent the strength and protection of the guardian spirits. It is a powerful pattern, often used for the cloaks of warriors and chiefs. As you weave the teeth, you feel a sense of security. You are building a layer of protection into the garment, something that will keep the wearer safe from both the cold and the unseen dangers of the world. You find yourself smiling at the thought of your fingers creating monster teeth. It sounds like something a child would be very excited about. You imagine a young warrior wearing this cloak and feeling a bit braver because of the patterns you are weaving right now. It is a small but important responsibility. The afternoon sun is now shining directly into the hut, illuminating the fine dust motes that dance in the air. They look like tiny, golden sparks. You notice how the light makes the tanico border glow. The white threads are brilliant, the black is deep and velvety, and the yellow is like liquid gold. The colors are so much more vibrant than any synthetic dye could ever be. They have a depth and a life to they that comes directly from the land. You realize that modern, minimalist fashion has nothing on this. This is maximalism with a very slow heartbeat. Every square inch of this border is packed with meaning and effort. You think about how people today often wear clothes with logos or brand names, but here, the patterns are your brand. They tell everyone your history, your family, and your skill. You find a light joke in the fact that your fingers are essentially a biological supercomputer. They are processing complex geometric data, managing multiple color inputs, and executing a high-precision physical task, all while you are thinking about what you might have for dinner. If you were a machine, you would probably require a lot of cooling and a very expensive power source, but all you need is a bit of water and the occasional rest. You are a masterpiece of evolution, performing a task that has remained unchanged for a millennium. It makes you feel very capable and very grounded. You are not a consumer in this moment. You are a producer of something lasting and significant. As you work on the diamonds representing the stars, you think about the open scholarly debate again. Some researchers believe that the patterns could actually be read like a code, with specific combinations of shapes, providing detailed information about genealogy or tribal boundaries. Others argue that they are purely symbolic and artistic, representing general concepts rather than specific data. To you, it feels like the answer is written in the threads themselves. Even if you can't read them like a book, you can certainly feel the meaning behind them. Each shape has a weight and a presence that goes beyond its visual appearance. You are weaving a feeling as much as a pattern. The stars are the most difficult part of the day. They require very small, precise movements to get the points of the diamonds just right. You have to be careful not to pull the threads too tight, or the diamonds will look like they are being squeezed. You want them to look like they are floating on the surface of the weave, just like the real stars float in the night sky. You remember looking up at the sky last night and seeing the vastness of the universe. Now, you are trying to capture a tiny piece of that vastness in your cloak. It is a humble but beautiful ambition. You find that you have to hold your breath, sometimes during the most delicate parts of the weave, as if the movement of your chest might disturb the threads. Your mind drifts back to the Warepora, the house of weaving. You feel like you are deep inside that sacred space now. The silence of the hut is not empty, it is full of the presence of the craft. You are in a state of flow where the world outside the two poles doesn't exist. You don't hear the birds anymore, and you don't feel the stiffness in your back. There is only the next thread, the next twist, and the next shape. It is a rare and precious state of being, one that is very hard to find in the noisy, distracted world of the future. You cherish it, letting it wrap around you like a soft, invisible blanket. You find yourself making a light comparison to modern technology. If you drop a thread now, it's not just a mistake, it's like accidentally deleting a whole paragraph in a book you're writing with a quill. You can't just press undo. You have to physically go back and undo the work, row by row, until you find the error. It is a powerful lesson in mindfulness. You learn to watch every movement, to check every count, and to be fully present in the moment. It is a form of discipline that makes you feel strong and focused. You realize that the slow pace of the work is not a flaw, it is the whole point. It forces you to be the best version of yourself. As the sun begins to set, the colors of the Taniko border change once more. The yellow becomes deeper, almost orange, and the black seems to expand, filling the shadows between the rows. You have completed a significant section of the pattern today. You can see the mountains, the rivers, the monster teeth, and the stars all beginning to take shape. It is a beautiful sight. You feel a sense of deep satisfaction, the kind that only comes from hard, honest work. You have turned a day of your life into a piece of art that will last long after you are gone. You decide to finish the row you are on, and then stop for the evening. Your fingers are starting to feel a little bit tired, and your eyes are straining in the dimming light. You know that if you continue now, you are more likely to make a mistake. You have learned to listen to your body and to respect its limits. The weave will be there tomorrow, and the poles will hold it safe during the night. You tie off the horizontal threads with a secure, temporary knot and step back to look at your work. Even in the twilight, the patterns are clear and striking. They have a power that is hard to explain, a sense of ancient wisdom that radiates from the fibers. You walk to the door of your hut and look out at the forest. The sky is a deep, bruised purple, and the first few stars are starting to twinkle. They look exactly like the diamonds you just wove into your cloak. You feel a sense of harmony with the universe. You have spent the day translating the world into thread, and now the world is reflecting your work back at you. It is a moment of perfect clarity and peace. You feel like a tiny but essential part of a very large and beautiful design. You think about the mainstream historical fact of the durability of these patterns. Because the colors are part of the structure, they don't peel or flake off like paint. They are woven into the very soul of the fabric. You imagine this cloak being worn by someone in the distant future, perhaps 100 years from now. They will look at these same triangles and diamonds and feel the same connection to the mountains and the stars. Your work today is a gift to the future, a way of passing on the stories and the values of your people. It is a wonderful thought to fall asleep to. You find a bit of humor in the idea of yourself as a historical influencer. You aren't posting photos or videos, but you are creating a visual style that will influence how people see your tribe for generations. You are setting the trends of the year 1500, or perhaps 1700, and your work will be seen by more people than any modern social media post. And unlike a post that disappears in a day, your cloak will remain. You are playing the long game of fashion, and you are winning. you have to chuckle at the thought of your quiet, dusty hut being the center of a historical fashion movement. The air is turning cold now, and you can smell the dampness of the evening. You go back inside and stir the small fire in the hearth. The orange glow dances across the Tanako border, making the patterns look like they are moving. The mountains seem to rise and fall, the rivers seem to flow, and the stars seem to flicker. It is a magical effect, a reminder that the cloak is a living thing, full of the energy and the spirit you have put into it. You feel a sense of warmth and comfort, knowing that you are surrounded by the stories of your ancestors. You lie down on your sleeping mat, your mind still buzzing with the patterns of the day. You see the diamonds and triangles behind your closed eyelids, a shifting kaleidoscope of black, white, and gold. You feel your body sinking into the earth, the heavy, pleasant tiredness of the day washing over you like a tide. You have done good work today. You have spoken with your fingers, told stories with your heart, and woven the history of your people into a piece of Harakeke. You are a weaver of stories, a guardian of the past, and a builder of the future. As you drift toward sleep, you feel a deep sense of gratitude for the journey. Each step, the harvest, the stripping of the fiber, the dyeing of the threads, and now the patterns, has been a lesson in patience and beauty. You are learning that the most important things in life can't be rushed. They require time, care, and a willing heart. You are ready to rest now, to let your dreams take you back to the mountains and the rivers of your patterns. Tomorrow, you will return to the poles, and the story will continue to grow, row by row, twist by twist. The forest outside is quiet, the birds having settled into their nests. The only sound is the soft crackle of the fire and the gentle rustle of the wind. You are safe, you are at peace, and you are exactly where you belong. The threads of your life are weaving themselves into a beautiful and meaningful pattern, just like the cloak. Sleep now, and let the stars you have woven watch over you in the dark. Sweet dreams of mountains and monsters' teeth, and the slow, rhythmic dance of the ancestral weave. You have earned your rest, and the morning will bring new rows and new stories to tell. The darkness is warm and heavy, a protective cloak of its own that settles over the hut and everyone inside. You feel the presence of the ancestors in the quiet, a gentle and supportive energy that encourages you to keep going. You are never truly alone when you are weaving. You are part of a great family, a great tradition, and a great story. And with that thought, you finally fall into a deep and restful sleep, your heart filled with the colors and shapes of the ancient world. The morning light is soft and hazy, like a dream that doesn't want to end. You sit once again between the two wooden poles, but the room feels different today. It is quieter, more focused. The large section of weaving you have completed hangs before you, a strong and beautiful shield of white, black, and gold. But now you are about to add the final, most delicate layer. You are about to give the cloak its breath. In front of you are several small woven baskets. Inside them, tucked away from the wind, are thousands of feathers. These are the treasures of the forest, gathered with care and respect. You have the deep, iridescent green and blue feathers from the neck of the cararoo, the large wood pigeon. You have the snowy white feathers from its breast. You even have a few precious, brown, hair like feathers from the kiwi, the shy bird of the night. You reach into a basket and pick up a single feather. It is so light that you can barely feel it in your hand. It is like holding a piece of a cloud. This is the stage where the cloak becomes a Kahu Huruhuru, a feather cloak. It is a mainstream historical fact that while the earliest Maori cloaks were mostly decorated with tassels of Muka, the full, feathered cloaks became the height of fashion and prestige in the 19th century. They were warm, beautiful, and showed the wearer's deep connection to the birds of the forest. You are about to embark on a task that is even slower than the Taniko patterns. You aren't just weaving thread anymore. You are weaving air and color. The process is a masterpiece of steady, patient movement. You take a vertical thread of Muka and prepare to make your horizontal twist, the aho. But before you cross the threads, you take a small bundle of 3 or 4 feathers. You place the quill ends against the Muka, pointing upwards, while the soft, colorful parts of the feathers point downwards. Then you make the twist. You wrap the horizontal threads around both the Muka and the quills, trapping the feathers in a firm, permanent embrace. You hear the tiny, almost silent sound of the quills being squeezed, a soft rustle like a secret whispered in the dark. Then you move to the next thread and do it again. Feather, twist, move. Feather, twist, move. You find a bit of humor in the fact that your hut now looks like a very polite and organized pillow fight took place inside it. There are tiny bits of fluff drifting in the air, catching the light like miniature stars. One lands on the tip of your nose, and you have to resist the urge to sneeze. You imagine yourself as a sort of professional bird stylist, carefully arranging the feathers so they lay perfectly flat and smooth. If a bird saw you right now, it would probably be very confused. It might think you were a very slow, giant cousin trying to build a new set of wings that don't actually work. You have to be careful not to breathe too hard, or your precious materials might decide to fly away on their own. A quirky tidbit of history is that feathers were often handled with a great deal of ritual. Some master weavers would only work with certain feathers at specific times of the day, believing that the spirit of the bird stayed with the feathers. You find yourself treating the feathers with a similar level of respect. You aren't just using them as decoration, you are honoring the life of the bird they came from. You think about the cararoo, the heavy, clumsy pigeon of the forest that loves to eat fermented berries until it falls out of the trees. It is a funny, beautiful bird, and its feathers are like gems. As you weave the green ones, they shift in the light, turning from emerald to sapphire to deep purple. It is like weaving a rainbow. The rhythm of the feather, weaving is slower than anything you have done before. You can't rush this. If you place a feather at the wrong angle, it will stick out like a sore thumb, ruining the smooth surface of the cloak. You have to ensure that each row of feathers overlaps the row below it, just like the feathers on a real bird's wing. This creates a waterproof, windproof layer that is incredibly warm. Historians still argue whether the specific patterns of colors, like a block of red next to a block of green, represented specific family crests, or if they were simply chosen based on which birds the hunters were able to find that season. Looking at your baskets, you think it's probably a bit of both. You are making a choice of beauty, but you are also limited by what the forest has given you. You move on to the kiwi feathers. These are very different. They don't look like feathers at all. They look like long, soft hairs. They are a deep, earthy brown. The kiwi is a special bird, a creature of the shadows that cannot fly. Its feathers are highly prized for their softness and their connection to the hidden world. As you weave them, the texture of the cloak changes. It becomes fuzzy and thick, like the fur of an animal. You find yourself stroking the finished section, feeling the incredible warmth it holds. It is like touching the heart of the forest itself. You imagine the wearer of this cloak walking through a cold, rainy night, feeling as warm and safe as a bird in its nest. Your mind drifts to the scholarly debate once more. Some experts suggest that the rise of the feather cloak was a response to the introduction of new bird species or changes in the environment, while others believe it was a purely artistic evolution. To you, sitting here with Muka in one hand and feathers in the other, it feels like a natural progression of love. You loved the flax, you loved the dye, and now you love the feathers. You are bringing all the elements of your world together into one garment. You are weaving the wetlands, the trees, the mud, and the sky. It is a complete map of your life. The afternoon sun is warm on your back, and the sound of the forest outside is a constant, soothing companion. You hear the chatter of the fantails and the distant, rhythmic drumming of a woodpecker. You feel like you are part of their world. You find a light joke in the thought that you are basically rebuilding a bird, one feather at a time, but on a much larger scale. You are making a mega bird that a human can wear. You imagine a kararoo seeing this cloak and feeling very proud of its contribution to human fashion. Or perhaps it would just be jealous of how much better your feathers look when they are all lined up so neatly. As you progress, the weight of the cloak changes. The feathers add a surprising amount of bulk and a strange, airy weight. It feels like you are holding a sleeping creature on your lap. You notice how the feathers react to the air. Even when the room is still, the tiny barbs of the feathers seem to vibrate, catching the invisible currents of the air. It is as if the cloak is breathing. This is why it is said that a feather cloak has its own life force, its own Maori. You are not just making an object, you are nurturing a spirit. You feel a deep sense of calm as you work, the repetitive motion of your hands acting like a lullaby for your own mind. You take a break to drink some cool water, looking at your work from a distance. The section of feathers you have finished is stunning. The colors blend together in a way that looks like sunlight hitting a forest canopy. You see the deep greens of the leaves, the browns of the earth, and the flashes of white like forest flowers. It is the most beautiful thing you have ever made. You realize that the months of preparation, the harvesting, the scraping, the dyeing, were all leading to this moment. Each feather is a reward for your patience. You feel a sense of gratitude for the birds and for the skill you have been given to work with their gifts. You find yourself making a light comparison to modern winter jackets. People today wear bright, shiny coats made of plastic and chemicals, filled with synthetic fluff. They are warm, yes, but they have no soul. They don't smell of the forest, and they don't have a history. Your cloak, on the other hand, is a living history. It has the strength of the flax, the memory of the mud, and the spirit of the birds. It is a piece of the world, not something made apart from it. You think about how much more meaningful it is to wear something that you have a personal relationship with. You know the exact bird that gave the feathers for the left shoulder, and you know the exact swamp where the mud for the border came from. A quirky tidbit that makes you smile is that some weavers would hum specific songs to the feathers as they worked, believing it helped them lay flatter. You don't know the traditional songs, so you find yourself humming a low, wordless tune that feels like the wind in the trees. The feathers seem to like it. They behave themselves, sliding into place without any trouble. You feel a sense of harmony with your materials. You are not fighting the feathers. You are working with them. You are a partner in their new life as a cloak. Your fingers move with a lightness that matches the feathers themselves. You are no longer just a weaver. You are a storyteller in flight. The sun begins to cast long, orange shadows across the room, and the air turns a bit cooler. The feathers catch the fading light, glowing with a rich, golden hue. You decide to finish the row of white feathers you are currently working on. These white feathers are from the breast of the cararoo, and they are the softest of all. They look like fallen snow against the dark muka. You are careful to keep your hands clean, as you don't want any of the green sap or black mud to stain the pure white. It is a delicate balance, managing the different colors and textures. You feel like an artist working with a very expensive and very fragile palette. Historians still argue about the significance of white feathers in these cloaks. Some believe they represented purity and peace, while others think they were used to create high contrast for visibility during important ceremonies. To you, they are simply the light in the forest. They are the spots of sun that hit the ground between the trees. They bring a sense of balance to the dark greens and browns. You enjoy the way they feel under your fingers, soft, cool, and smooth. You imagine the finished cloak being worn by a person of great importance, the white feathers shining in the firelight of a village gathering. It is a proud and noble image. You find a bit of humor in your own appearance. You are covered in tiny white down feathers, looking like you've been through a very gentle snowstorm. Your hair probably has a few green feathers sticking out of it too. You look like a forest spirit that is only half formed. You imagine walking into a modern supermarket looking like this? People would probably think you were part of a very strange performance art piece. But here, in your hut, it is the most natural thing in the world. You are part of the craft, literally becoming one with your work. You are the weaver, the bird, and the cloak all at once. As you finish the row, you step back and stretch. Your body is tired, but your spirit is soaring. You look at the two poles, the turuturu, which have held your work so faithfully. They are almost completely hidden now by the mass of feathers. The cloak is growing, becoming a heavy, magnificent thing. You feel a sense of awe at what you have created. It started as a green leaf in a swamp, and now it is a shimmering, feathered masterpiece. It is a testament to the power of slow work and the beauty of nature. You feel a deep sense of peace, knowing that you are following in the footsteps of your ancestors. You walk to the door and look out at the night. The forest is dark and full of sounds. You hear the call of the ruru, the small owl, its more pork cry echoing through the trees. You feel a connection to the owl, another bird of the forest. You wonder if it would like to donate a few feathers to your cause, but you decide not to ask. You have enough. You have more than enough. You have a world of color and soft air hanging in your hut, waiting for the morning. You feel a sense of security and warmth, knowing that your work is good. You think about the mainstream historical fact of how these cloaks were valued as tonga, or treasures. They were often given names, and were considered to have their own personalities. They would be brought out for only the most important occasions: weddings, funerals, and treaties. By making this cloak, you are creating a new tonga. You are adding to the wealth of your people, not in money, but in spirit and beauty. It is a heavy but wonderful thought. You feel a sense of responsibility to the future, to ensure that this cloak is strong enough to last for centuries. A quirky tidbit that comes to mind is that some master weavers could tell exactly which forest a feather came from just by its color and texture. They knew the land so well that every bird was a messenger from a specific place. You are starting to understand that. You can see the difference between the feathers from the coastal trees and the feathers from the deep, inland mountains. The land is written in the feathers. You are weaving a map of the landscape into the cloak. It is a beautiful and complex language that you are just beginning to speak. The air is cold now, and you can smell the damp earth and the distant sea. You go back inside and stir the fire, the orange light reflecting off the feathers. The cloak seems to shimmer and move in the firelight, the green and blue feathers catching the sparks. It looks like it is covered in living jewels. You feel a sense of warmth and comfort, knowing that you are surrounded by such beauty. You are ready to rest, to let your mind wander through the soft, feathered dreams of the night. You have done your best today, and it was beautiful work. You lie down on your mat, the image of the feathered cloak still clear in your mind. You see the green, the brown, and the white feathers behind your closed eyelids, a shifting landscape of color and softness. You feel your body sinking into the ground, the earth supporting you with a steady and quiet strength. You are part of the rhythm of the world, a single strand in the great weaving of life. You take a final, deep breath, letting the scent of the forest and the feathers fill your lungs. It is the scent of your home, the scent of your history. As you drift toward sleep, you find yourself smiling. You think about the rows you will weave tomorrow, the last few feathers you will add, and the final knots you will tie. It is a happy prospect, a future filled with beauty and peace. You are no longer in a rush to finish. You have learned that the process is a gift, a way of connecting with the world in a deep and meaningful way. You are a weaver of dreams, and the dreams are soft and warm. The night is quiet and welcoming, a soft cloak of its own that settles over you as you finally drift into a deep and dreamless sleep. The forest outside whispers to you, a gentle lullaby of wind and leaves. The birds have settled into their nests, their feathers tucked tight against the cold. You are safe, you are protected, and you are exactly where you belong. The threads of your life are weaving themselves into a beautiful and meaningful pattern, just like the cloak. Sleep now, and let the feathers you have woven watch over you in the dark. Sweet dreams of birds and forest light, and the slow, rhythmic dance of the ancestral weave. You have earned your rest, and the morning will bring the final rose and the end of the journey. The darkness is not empty. It is full of the potential of the final knot. You can almost feel the cloak waiting for you, standing silent in the hut, its feathers shimmering in the dark. But for now, they are resting too. The Huruhuru hold their burden with a quiet strength, and the earth holds you with a gentle embrace. You are part of the flow of history, a single strand in a vast and ancient tapestry. And that is a very good thing to be. You let go of the day, sliding gently into the soft, velvet darkness, your heart at peace and your soul at rest. The final morning has arrived, and the air inside your hut is still and expectant, as if the very walls know that today is the day of the last knot. The sun is just starting to burn through the morning fog, sending thin, pale rays of light through the doorway that illuminate the great mass of feathers and Muka hanging between the poles. It looks magnificent. After all these weeks of harvesting, scraping, dyeing, and weaving, the cloak is finally reaching the end of its journey on the frame. You sit down in your usual spot, feeling the familiar smoothness of the dirt floor beneath you. Your hands move instinctively toward the bottom of the weave, where only a few inches of Muka remain before the final border. You feel a strange mix of excitement and a soft, quiet sadness. This project has become the rhythm of your life, and soon the rhythm will change. You begin the final rows of the main body, the aho that will seal the last of the feathers into place. Your fingers move with a confidence that you didn't have on the first day. You don't have to think about the twists anymore, they just happen. You pick up a small bundle of red feathers from the kaka, the mountain parrot, which you saved for the very bottom edge. They are a brilliant, fiery orange-red, providing a bold finish to the deep greens and browns of the main body. You tuck them into the twist, feeling the quill sit perfectly against the vertical muka. If you were a bird, you'd probably be worried that you're looking a bit too much like a very large, grounded parrot. But as a human, you just feel incredibly stylish. You imagine that after spending months doing this, you could probably weave a comfortable sweater out of cooked spaghetti if you really tried, though it might get a bit messy during the first rain. The mainstream historical fact about these finished cloaks is that they were often given as gifts of state or to mark the end of a conflict. A cloak like this, a Kahu Huruhuru, was a symbol of peace and high honor. When a chief wore it, they weren't just wearing feathers. They were wearing the combined effort and spirit of the weaver and the forest. You think about the weight of that responsibility. This garment might one day be used to sign a treaty or to welcome a new life into the world. It is a vessel for history. You find yourself tightening the knots just a little bit more, ensuring that everything is as strong as it can possibly be. You want this cloak to be standing long after the stories of this decade have faded into legend. As you reach the very last horizontal row, you transition into the finishing border. This is often a different kind of weave, meant to provide a sturdy edge that won't fray or unravel. You use a thick, braided Muka thread, twisting it tightly around the vertical wenu. It is hard work on your fingers, requiring a lot of pressure to get the edge perfectly straight. You find yourself making a light joke about your weaving hands versus your typing hands from your modern life. Your fingers are calloused and strong now, stained with the colors of the earth, and you realize you haven't looked at a screen or a clock in weeks. It is a wonderful feeling to be so disconnected from the digital world and so connected to the physical one. Your only notifications, are the calls of the birds and the changing light on the floor. A quirky tidbit of history suggests that some master weavers would have a favorite set of lucky poles that they would use for every major project. They believed the poles held the memory of every successful cloak they had ever made, helping the new one find its shape. You look at your own poles, the Huruhuru, which have stood so faithfully in the dirt. They are covered in small scratches and stains from the Muka and the feathers. You feel a genuine sense of gratitude toward them. They have been your silent partners in this marathon of patience. You imagine them being quite happy to finally let go of their burden, perhaps looking forward to a nice rest in the corner of the hut once the cloak is gone. Historians still argue whether the long, flowing fringe often found at the bottom of these cloaks served a functional purpose to shed rain, or if it was purely an aesthetic choice to finish the design. As you look at the ends of your Muka threads hanging down, you decide to leave them as a long, soft fringe. It looks like the roots of a tree, connecting the garment back to the earth. You spend an hour just trimming the fringe, so it is perfectly even, the sound of your shell tool making a soft, rhythmic snip, snip, snip. It is a very satisfying sound, like the final punctuation mark at the end of a very long and beautiful sentence. You are nearing the final knot, the one that will officially complete the weave. The final knot is a simple but profound movement. You gather the last few threads of the border and tie them off with a secure, double loop knot. You pull it tight, feeling the tension lock into place. For a moment, you just sit there with your hands still on the fabric. The silence in the hut feels heavy and sweet. You have done it. The thousands of twists, the millions of fibers, and the countless feathers have all come together to form a single, unified whole. You feel a sense of peace that is deeper than anything you have felt before. It is the peace of completion, the quiet joy of a job well done. You take a deep breath, smelling the familiar scent of Harakeke and wood smoke, and you realize that you have changed just as much as the flax has. Now comes the most dramatic moment of all, taking the cloak off the poles. You carefully untie the top foundation line from the wooden uprights. As the tension is released, the cloak shifts, its weight suddenly falling into your lap. It is much heavier than you expected. It feels like a living thing, warm and substantial. You realize it is essentially an ancient, hand-woven version of a weighted blanket, but about 500 years early. You imagine that if you tried to wear this in a modern airport, you'd probably have to pay for an extra seat just for the cloak. But here, the weight is a sign of quality and protection. You lift it up, feeling the way the feathers rustle and move, catching the light in a shimmering wave of green and gold. You stand up, feeling the stiffness in your legs, and you drape the cloak over your shoulders for the first time. The sensation is incredible. It is immediately warm, the layers of feathers trapping your body heat and reflecting it back to you. It smells of the forest, the sun, and the clean, earthy Muka. You feel a sudden sense of safety, as if you are wrapped in a protective cocoon that no wind or rain could ever penetrate. You walk slowly around the hut, feeling the way the cloak moves with you. It doesn't feel like a piece of clothing. It feels like an extension of your own skin. You look down at the red cocker feathers at the hem, and you feel a surge of pride. You are a weaver, and this is your masterpiece. You find yourself making one last light joke about your current appearance. You look like a very fashionable bird that has forgotten how to fly, but has decided to walk everywhere with extreme dignity. You imagine your neighbors back in the modern world seeing you like this. They would probably think you've finally joined a very exclusive and very fluffy cult. But you don't care. The comfort and the warmth of the cloak are all that matters. You feel a deep connection to the land and to the ancestors who wore these same garments. You are part of the story now, a single thread in the great tapestry of history. The journey that started in a damp wetland with a sharp shell has ended here, in the warmth of your own creation. You sit back down, still wrapped in the cloak, and watch the sun begin to set through the doorway. The sky is a riot of orange and purple, matching the colors of the feathers on your shoulders. You feel a sense of profound contentment. The work is over, but the cloak will live on. It will keep you warm through the cold nights. It will protect you from the rain, and it will remind you of the beauty that can be found in slow, rhythmic effort. You have learned that time is not something to be rushed, but something to be woven. Each moment is a thread, and when you take the time to align them with care, you create something that can withstand the test of time. The room is growing dark now, the shadows stretching across the floor. The only light comes from the small, glowing embers of the fire. You feel your eyes getting heavy, the weight and warmth of the cloak acting like a gentle invitation to sleep. You have earned this rest. Your hands are still, your heart is quiet, and your mind is at peace. The story of the weaving is complete, and a new story, the story of the wearing, is beginning. You close your eyes, feeling the soft brush of the feathers against your cheek. It is a gentle, comforting sensation, a final lullaby from the forest. The world outside is quiet, the birds having returned to their nests. You hear the distant sound of the sea, a rhythmic pulse that has guided you through the entire process. You feel a sense of unity with everything around you. The Harakeke, the birds, the mud, and the trees are all part of the cloak, and the cloak is part of you. You are wrapped in the history of the land, protected by the wisdom of the ancestors. It is a beautiful and humbling thought. You let yourself sink into the warmth, feeling the tension of the weeks finally melting away. You are safe. You are home. You are a weaver of history, and your work is beautiful. As you drift toward the final edge of wakefulness, you think about the tomorrow. There will be no more scraping, no more dyeing, and no more counting threads. Instead, there will be the simple joy of living with what you have made. You will wear your history with pride, and you will remember the lessons of the flax. You have found a way to slow down, to listen, and to create. That is the greatest treasure of all. You take one last deep breath, the scent of the Muka filling your lungs for the last time before sleep. It is the scent of accomplishment. It is the scent of peace. The darkness is soft and warm, just like the cloak. You feel the heavy, pleasant tiredness of the day washing over you like a tide. You have done good work. You have spoken with your fingers, told stories with your heart, and woven the history of your people into a piece of Harakeke. You are a weaver of stories, a guardian of the past, and a builder of the future. The night is your friend, and the cloak is your shield. You let go of the world, sliding gently into the soft, velvet darkness, your heart at peace and your soul at rest. As the final embers of the fire fade to gray, the hut becomes a place of pure, quiet shadow. You are no longer a person doing a task. You are a person resting in the fruit of your labor. The journey is over, and it was a good journey. The forest whispers one last time, a gentle blessing of wind and leaves, before the silence of the night takes over. You are asleep now, wrapped in the warmth of the feathers and the strength of the Muka, dreaming of the slow and rhythmic dance of the weave. The air in the room is very still now, and your breathing is slow and deep. The weight of the cloak is a steady, comforting presence on your chest, rising and falling with every breath. You are drifting in a world of soft textures and muted colors, where the only thing that matters is the warmth you have created. The memories of the harvest and the patterns fade into a gentle, golden haze. You are at peace with the world, and the world is at peace with you. The long days of weaving have come to an end, and you have found your way to the final, perfect knot of the day. The silence is your companion, a soft and heavy blanket that covers everything. You are no longer worried about the time or the deadlines of the world. You are just here, in this moment, in this warmth. The journey has been long, but every step was worth it. You have created something that will last, something that has a soul. And as you sink deeper into your sleep, you know that you have found a part of yourself in the weave. You are a weaver, and your story is beautiful. The night carries you away now, into the deep and dreamless sleep of the truly rested. The cloak holds you, the earth supports you, and the stars watch over you. Everything is exactly as it should be. You have finished the work, and now the work is taking care of you. Sweet dreams of the forest, the flax, and the final, rhythmic knot. You have arrived at the end of the journey, and the rest is silence and warmth. The rhythm of the weaving has now settled deep into your bones, and as the final row is finished, the world around you seems to grow even quieter. The heavy, warm weight of the finished cloak is like a gentle hand on your shoulder, reassuring you that the long journey of creation is finally over. You can feel the slow, steady pulse of the earth through the floor, matching the calm beat of your own heart as you drift closer to sleep. The colors of the feathers and the textures of the Muka are fading into a soft, hazy memory, leaving only a sense of profound peace and safety. There is no more work to be done, no more threads to count, and no more patterns to track. You are simply here, wrapped in the warmth of your own patience and the spirit of the forest. The air is cool on your face, but the cloak keeps you as warm as a sun-drenched stone. Let your mind wander now, through the silver mists of the wetlands and the golden light of the trees, knowing that you have honored the land and the ancestors with every twist of your fingers. You are part of the long, beautiful story of the weave, a story that never truly ends, but simply waits for the next morning. But for now, the morning is far away. There is only the darkness, the warmth, and the deep, restorative rest that you have so rightly earned. Let the world outside fade away completely, leaving only the soft rustle of the feathers and the quiet song of your own breath. You are safe, you are protected, and you are deeply at peace.